country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And while it is true that we can work to become more independent in certain areas, whether it be like the economy and so on, yet we should not be a part of an organization that is claiming to be fighting still for some sort of independence. Yet you will see what they call the real independence. It goes on. There is a subheading in the manifesto that says, and I quote, "The task, the battle for socialism, 21st century's Ayacucho." The battle for socialism, 21st century's Ayacucho. And we say, well, what is that? Well, from the brief research I've done so far, what I've found is that the battle for Ayacucho was a battle that was fought in 1824 in the country of Peru. And this battle was a very decisive and significant battle in that it resulted in the independence of the nation of Peru from Spanish colonialism. And it also impacted upon the independence of many of the other Spanish countries in the south from their colonial masters. So it was a decisive and significant battle. We are told that the ALBA Manifesto is based upon this same battle, but a 21st century idea, a modern day idea of this battle. And it is called the battle for socialism. Listen to what they say, and I quote, "But the 21st century's Ayacucho will be the victory of socialism, the sole guarantee of a true independence and sovereignty with justice for the people." End of quote. So here they announce that they'll be fighting the Battle of Ayacucho over again, but not like it was fought back then, fighting against colonials physically, but it will be a battle for the victory of socialism. So this is now a battle of ideology and political practices against what they have called imperialists or imperialism, really and truly fighting against the powers of America and the other ex-colonialists, and fighting against what they also call capitalism. But as we have shown you, my dear people, socialism is anti-rights. It is anti the rights and freedoms of the people. It does not, for example, believe in the right to private property. And I will quote to you from the Communist Manifesto where that is said. But we are told that we have signed a manifesto that agrees to fight for the victory of socialism. And they lianly tell us that it will bring about true independence and sovereignty with justice for the people. Well, Venezuela is socialist already, so is Cuba, socialist communist. And yet we do not see justice for people there. We see opposition radio stations being thrown off the radio, freedom of the press being stifled when you dare to criticize or disagree with Chavez's government. We see Justice Afiyuni, a judge, being made to be arrested and imprisoned because she gave a ruling and a judgment that Chavez didn't like. Is that the justice and the independence that socialism promises us, my dear people? If it is, we don't want it. We see ladies in white in Cuba being forced off the streets because they were having peaceful protests over what they consider to be the unlawful imprisonment of their sons and husbands for over 7 years. They've been doing it, and all of a sudden the government cracks down on them and forces them off the street. Is that the socialism that we want, that is going to bring us true independence? No, we don't want it, and we never gave any such mandate to any government leader to so promise that our country and our people understand that this is the way to go. These principles and ideologies of government have proven to be anti-rights. But let me go quickly along as our time is fast escaping us. We have other statements being made in this document that promises that we will do certain things that we never knew anything about. For example, we are told that there's a common foreign policy. All the ALBA countries have one view and policy on how they're going to deal with their foreign neighbors. And one of the aspects of this foreign policy, one of the main pillars, involves what they have called, and I quote, "the fight against all forms of interventionism and war." And it goes on. In that sense, the countries of ALBA will help preserve and maintain peace by forming alliances to strengthen their capacity to guarantee the national sovereignty of the peoples against foreign intervention, particularly against the occupation and military threats by the empire. End of quote. Now, whenever Hugo Chavez starts talking about threats by the empire. When he starts talking about the empire and Yankee imperialism, he's referring to the United States of America. And here we are told that one of the things ALBA countries have agreed to do as a main pillar of its common foreign policy is to fight against foreign interventionism. In other words, fighting against the intervention of foreign nations into our own affairs. But listen to how they say they're going to do that. They said they're going to form alliances to strengthen their capacity, strengthen the capacity of ALBA countries to guarantee national sovereignty of the people against foreign intervention, particularly against the occupation and military threats by the empire. So we are going to strengthen our capacity to fight against the occupation and military threats by America. How are we going to do that if we are not going to beef up and strengthen our own military strength? And why do we even have to prepare to fight against military intervention by America? Is there some threat for America to militarily intervene in our affairs? Does St. Vincent and the Grenadines have any such fear? Why are we signing on to these things? Why are we agreeing to these things that have the potential to make our situations where our human rights and freedoms enjoyment climate is concerned, make it potentially negatively impacted? My dear people, this is of serious concern to us. Why do we have to fight against the so-called empire when it is ALBA itself who announces that they want to control the world? Listen to this statement, and I quote, "The ALBA to the world. ALBA emerging as a world power in the South and from Latin America and the Caribbean must be a dynamic and fundamental promoter in the struggle to achieve the balance of the universe according to the vow of the liberator." The liberator is Simon Bolivar. Okay? My dear people, ALBA is saying it wants to emerge as a world power in the South, and yet you talk about people having power or hegemony and control over us. But you want to replace the so-called powers that are over us now. You, ALBA, want to become the new power, the new empire, the new imperialists, but socialist imperialism. And we don't want it because we want independence, which is what we have. We want no new colonialists. We want no new imperialists. We want our freedoms. We want our rights, which come from God, to be respected by any government who's given the consent of the people to serve the people, not to become a power over the people like kings and gods. This is the thing governments need to understand. Then when we go down further in the manifesto, it tells of plans to do certain things in a certain space of time. For example, we are told that the Presidential Council, I'm quoting now, the Presidential Council of ALBA orders the Political Council to produce a document for the consideration of the heads of state and government in the next 3 months, proposing a way, a methodology, and a timetable for progress towards the union of the efforts of our government and our countries in defending sovereignty to address the political and media campaigns that the empire unleashed against our people. End of quote. So we are told here that in 3 months, some political council has been instructed that in 3 months they must present a document to ALBA heads of state. And in this document, they must outline a timetable and a way forward towards the union of our government's efforts to do what? To address the political and media campaigns that the empire unleashed against us. I want ALBA to tell the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines which media campaign has America, who you're calling the empire, unleashed against us. Why do we have to fight against that? Which media campaign has America unleashed against us that we have to join with your political council to look at a document of a plan to fight against that? We know of none. Why are we putting ourselves in this position? One of the final things I want to point out as a contradiction as our time goes down is the fact that this manifesto says that ALBA's Economic Council will also have to present a document that is going to help with the implementation of Sucre and the Bank of ALBA. Yes, my dear people, let me quote it to you. It says, "In this sense, we decided to instruct the ALBA Economic Council to designate a coordinator of economic policy. And what will this coordinator of economic policy do? And I quote, that in 3 months would show, starting from a diagnosis of our countries and our region, a big map of sovereignty and economic independence, where will be identified the strengths and weaknesses of our economies. And it talks about they must analyze the entire thing, and we must create our economy under a socialist perspective. Then it says, and I quote to you, my dear people, the Economic Council of ALBA must propose within 30 days a plan to accelerate or to speed up the implementation of Sucre and expand the development of big national businesses and the Bank of ALBA on a larger scale that really impacts the current economic life of our countries. End of quote. Here we are told in no uncertain terms that within 30 days, and by the way, the 30 days is up because this was signed on 19th of April and the 19th of May has gone. But we are told in 30 days they were supposed to present a plan to the Economic Council of ALBA. To ALBA members. The Economic Council must present a plan in 30 days to ALBA heads of state. And this plan must show how they could speed up the implementation of the new currency, Sucre, and the implementation and expansion of big national businesses and the Bank of ALBA. Now, we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we belong to a currency union already. We are using the EC dollar. Nothing in this document says that we are exempted from this. It simply says that all member states signed this. So what agreement do we have concerning signing on to an agreement to speed up the implementation of a new currency, which we are not using? How does that compromise us? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. But I want you to pay attention particularly to the areas where the potential of our rights and freedoms being infringed, where we are moving towards socialism, my dear people. In the Communist Manifesto, written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, it is plainly stated on page 96 of the Communist Manifesto. In this sense, the theory of the communists may be summed up in the single sentence, abolition of private property. End of quote. Then we are also told on page 103, but communism abolishes eternal truths. It abolishes all religion and all morality. End of quote. This is what communism, which is the same as socialism, is all about. Abolishing your rights. Abolishing your right to private property, abolishing your very right to religious liberty. These things we are concerned about because our country, through ALBA, has declared that it is going down a road of socialism. And we say, away with it. We say, down with socialism. We don't want it. It is against our God-given rights and freedoms. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines, through its people, never gave any government such a mandate to say, we want to go to socialism. Because you see, my dear people, that is what the ALBA Manifesto, the Bicentennial Manifesto of Caracas, that's what it says at the end, you know. It says the people gave them the mandate. Listen to what it says. It says, we are independent governments that respond to the mandate of our peoples. That's what the manifesto says. Yet, who knew about this until we went on the internet and found it? We knew of no such mandate. We knew of no such plans to fight against the intervention of America. We knew of no such plans to speed up the implementation of Sucre. We knew of no such plans to fight against some so-called media campaign that the empire has launched against us. Yet you say we gave you the mandate. You lie on us, basically. The people did not give such a mandate. The people will not give a mandate to a theory and a practice of governance that abolishes their private property by encouraging the state to control all the means of production. My dear people, this is dangerous. It is dangerous for us in this country, and we ought to understand the meaning and the implications of it. Don't let anybody fool you and tell you socialism is good and trying to quote scripture to say socialism is good. Jesus Christ respected your rights and your freedoms. He called us to the right way, but he respected people's rights and freedoms. He didn't seek to force them. He gave us our rights and freedoms in the way he created us. And therefore, no government is supposed to seek to come to trample upon those same God-given rights through principles and philosophies of governance such as socialism and communism. So, my dear people, I beg of you to take heed. Remember that for more information, you may contact us by telephone numbers 432-5268 or 528-1015. We love you. We care about you. We care about our rights and freedoms being protected in this country, and this is why we speak.